So once you're all set, we can get started.
We shouldn't wait. I guess we should wait.
Are we?
I think we're-
Is Ira going to be there?
I don't know.
He's in a meeting.
He's in the finance.
Yeah, because
Who's our
is it
township attorney?
the
Who's our attorney now?
is it the
Ira's been the
working-
attorney.
He was here
He's
at the council
back?
working session today.
Is it a working session for the council?
No, it's a council finance committee meeting, so it's
Oh.
a
And
they're
subcommittee
upstairs.
of the council.
Are you all together?
I'm
Oh,
set.
you don't know the other meeting?
There's another meeting in the boardroom at the other end of the hall. I don't know who's in that.
I just saw, I thought about John Wynn's card outside, so I was wondering if there was a planning board event.
That's Mr. Rooney.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
Sometimes no, but that's.
Tom's not coming.
Oh, no.
Okay.
He's not coming. Okay, we're ready to go.
I think we're all set.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending the HPC meeting, Montclair Historic Preservation Commission meeting today, October 10th, 2019. This is a rescheduled meeting from September 26th. We're holding it tonight. This meeting has been publicized in the 3 newspapers, the Montclair Times, the Star Ledger, and the what else?
Herald News?
Herald News. And there's also been a notice posted within the town hall here. We're also being live streamed tonight on Channel 34. So when you come in and introduce yourselves, you'll be able to watch yourself on TV next week. Roll call, Mr. Petto.
Sure. Chair Bennett,
Present?
Vice Chair Hyman,
Present.
Mr. Greenbaum,
Here.
Mr. Rooney,
Here.
Ms. Kane-Levy is excused this evening, Mr. Reimnitz is excused this evening, and Mr. Karasik is absent at this time.
And just
And
to...
Mr. Connolly is also
Right,
excused.
just to note that our historic preservation consultant is not here tonight. Has everyone had a, Mr. Petto, did you hand out a meeting with the time slots on it?
I did not, unfortunately.
Oh, that's okay, don't worry.
They are at the back of the room, though, with the time slot.
With time slot? Okay.
I allocated about 15 minutes to each item on the agenda.
Okay, all right, good, thank you. So we'll move on to the minutes of, the draft minutes of Montclair Historic Preservation Commission of August 22nd, 2019. Any commissioners present that would like to comment or change anything?
No comment.
No comment.
No comments.
Okay, no comment from me. So with that, I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of August.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so our next spot on the agenda is for public comment. Would anyone like to approach the podium and speak? No? Okay, and our next item are committee reports. I know it's been a pretty quiet time, but I will ask Mr. Petto about minor applications. Has there been any action?
Yes, we had one meeting of the minor application subcommittee there, with Ms. Kane-Levy. We reviewed 5 applications, and the applications were approved, subject to modifications.
Okay.
We're still waiting receipt on those. So, and the certificates are all posted on eCode and available.
Okay, great. Revisions committee.
We have not had any requests for revisions committee reviews at this point. I do anticipate some upcoming, though, as some projects that have been approved over at the zoning board are starting to go through permitting. So I'm anticipating a couple coming through.
Okay, great. Design review and redevelopment. Mr. Rooney.
Design review and redevelopment.
I don't think we've had any.
We haven't
had it.
No. Okay. And nominations committee, which is dealing with our ongoing grant.
Yes.
So would you like to report on
Sure.
that,
So,
Mr. Petto?
the township is in receipt of the draft report of the Oakcroft and Wheeler Street potential historic districts, or historic resource areas, I should say. They're not. We need to read through the recommendations from the consultant to determine whether they recommend districting or not. And we've scheduled a subcommittee meeting of the Landmarks Nomination Committee on Tuesday next week to review the report, and then a formal presentation will be made at the Commission's next meeting on October 24th of the findings of the consultant. So Ms. Margaret Hickey will be here to give that presentation to the Commission. So and the purpose of next week's meeting is to kind of give some initial feedback at the committee level so that she's prepared for her presentation on the 24th.
So will we then have an additional meeting for people from the residents of these two potential
So
districts?
I think moving forward, I think what we need to do is have Ms. Hickey go through and present all of her findings, and then make a determination as to, how we'll proceed with nominations of the areas. If they warrant nomination, we don't know yet. We haven't gone through the report. I think hearing the findings from Ms. Hickey will help us in that process, and then we can perhaps schedule the public hearing portion of the nomination process in November for those districts, should they qualify, and we want
Okay.
to move forward with
And that will happen at our next meeting, which I believe is October 26th?
So October 24th.
24th, okay.
Ms. Hickey will give her presentation and final findings on the districts. Should we move forward with nomination, I'm recommending that we do that at the November meeting. We
Okay.
hold the public hearing.
Okay, great,
Okay.
thank you. Education and outreach, I think I haven't
haven't
did
done it yet.
anything. Old business, do we have any old business? No? Okay, and let it be recorded that our attorney, Mr. Krasik, is now present with us.
Finance committee is still meeting.
Oh. Well, we're glad you're here.
Thank you. I got out. You got me out of there.
Okay, we will now move on to our first application. Which is application for certificate of appropriateness, application 2019-29, 16 Portland Place. This is an application, as I said, for certificate of appropriateness. 16 Portland Place is identified in the 2003 Town Center Historic District Nomination Report as a key building. This is an identification applied to those buildings which possess distinct architectural and historic significance and which acts as a landmark within the architectural matrix of the district. Two-story brick building was constructed around 1920 according to township tax assessment records. And the applicant proposes to resurface the brick facade of the building with a three-coat stucco system. And everybody has their application with pictures. So,
Mr. Conley's report.
well, should we do that after?
Yeah, I'll swear to you.
Okay.
Hi, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're going to give this commission is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Okay, could you please state your name and your affiliation to the applicant?
Sure. My name is Joseph Haynes with the firm of Dassa Haynes Architects. I'm the principal at the firm. This is our office at 16 Portland Place. We've been there since 2006, I think it is.
Okay, thank you. This is as I stated, an application for a certificate of appropriateness, and it also be noted that a previous certificate was approved, and we also have that with our files. So before we address Mr. Conley's comments, could you just run through briefly what you intend to do to the facade?
Sure. I'm sorry, the table's squeaking.
Oh.
When I purchased the building, actually, I bought it from the township in an auction back in 2005, 2006, with the purpose of putting my office there. I had to go for, I think it was a use variance at the time to put it there. But before I went to that board, I went in front of your board. I think I went twice. It's hard to remember back. But I went one time just for the original renovations. I came back because I had concerns about restoring the brick. The building sat vacant for years when the township owned it. Actually, I have some pictures here I can show you of what it looked like before I bought it. I can't tell you how many years it sat, but it sat not being taken care of. All the windows were boarded up with plywood. The brick was exposed. It was painted white, and it was like the old brick was spalling off in all different areas with bad water decay, a lot of freezing and spalling. The brick itself is not good brick that's on the building. I I think this building was built at the same time, or I was looking at the historic report that I found online today. It said it was actually built years after Just Jake's building, and it was part of the water department was Just Jake's, and this was a firehouse. It was actually a firehouse, from my understanding, to have horses on the bottom half, like a horse and carriage firehouse type of place. When I bought it, there was no stairs going to the second floor. It was actually a little scuttle ladder against the wall, and that's how you get up to the second level, which was falling completely apart. The roof was falling apart. The floor was falling apart. They kept the antique fire truck in there for many years. So we did a major renovation on the building. It's not a big building. It's 20 by 40, two-story building, and it's just my office that's in there. I have an architecture and a construction firm. So in the past, so when we renovated it 13 years ago, I reached out, being an architect, I reached out to, I don't know if you've ever heard of Sika products, but I reached out to my Sika representative, I brought him in. We tried to see how we could maintain the character of the brick and then paint the brick. So we used some Sika products. I don't remember exactly which ones we used at this point, but we were able to patch the brick, remove a lot of loose brick, replace some brick, actually parapets on both sides of the building. We completely rebuilt the two side parapets because they were falling in.
Yeah.
And we did the best brick restoration we could. We actually patched a lot of areas. If you came up close to the building, you would see a lot of areas that are not real brick, but patched, and we put score lines in it, kind of represent the brick pattern. And when I came to the board with the stucco idea and got approvals back in 2006, I said, I'm going to try to keep the brick look as long as I can, but if it doesn't work, I want to make sure I can stucco the building. And I let it be for 13 years, but now I'm getting leakage into the building. I got water issues coming in different areas. If you look on my building, we've caulked a couple different areas on the building just to keep the water coming out every time I see a different spot come in. And I think the best solution, after investigating it between the Sika representatives again, different paint manufacturers that I deal with, and a couple different stucco representatives, that stucco is my best alternative at this point to face the building in. And it will be a 3-coat stucco system is what I'm proposing. So it's a hard coat system. It's not a foam behind, because the building takes a lot of abuse on that corner too. I'm just adjacent to Just Jake's. Deliveries are made on that corner. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic on that corner. You know, people come out from the bar on that corner, and the building does take some abuse. So I wanted a hard product on the outside that will hopefully maintain itself a little bit. So what I'm looking on doing is putting a hard coat stucco with a wire mesh first, a couple hard coats, 2 layers of cement stucco, and then on the exterior an acrylic stucco product that will have the color embedded in it, just like you would see on an IFAS building, but without the foam. And that material on the outside will give a little bit of flexibility to help prevent some of the cracks that could develop because the building still moves with the brick.
Okay, and the 3-coat stucco system, how thick will that be?
About 3/4 of an inch.
Okay. Do you have any other further, anything
I
else?
was asked, when I saw the report from
Mr. Conley?
Mr. Conley, correct. He asked us to do a section to remove the wall on what it would look like at the windowsills. So I prepared that today, so I could pass that out if it's acceptable.
Yes, please.
And I could also pass out a couple of pictures of what the building
Sure.
looked like.
Yeah, please, you can.
I don't have extra copies. Just one second.
We'll just pass
That's
them.
okay, we can pass them.
That's when I first bought the building downtown. And then this is the wall section of the building. I did make copies of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it actually connected to Just Jake's?
It is, through the party wall.
Thank you. So we'll open it up now to questions from the commissioners. Mr. Rooney, do you want to start first?
Yeah, so by putting on the stucco, we'll lose anything to do with brick. There won't be any pattern or anything like that.
Unfortunately.
On the back of the building, there's a little corbelling.
On the back side, which would be
On the parking lot.
On the driveway side, correct, which is the south side of the building, on
Right.
the east side as well, over the top of Just Jake's.
Oh, it is?
Correct.
What are you going to do with that?
We were just going to keep the same corbelling. My thought process was not to change the look of the building at
Okay.
all. In my previous approval, we talked about extending that all the way around, which could have a nice look to it, but it's not what was originally built. It's
Right.
not what I was proposing tonight, so I was going to leave it the way it is. So I would bring I would bring my wire mesh up to the bottom of that, and then around those, I'll have to not put wire mesh. It would be very difficult to do that around the corbelling.
Right.
So they would stop the wire mesh, they would have to sand that down and take all the old paint back down to the brick, put an adhering agent onto the brick, and then we'll just stucco directly onto the brick at that point. So I would
Okay.
keep the corbelling.
Do you have any questions?
What are you going to do with the detailing around the windows, those arched windows?
It's funny because my staff put the drawings together and we sent them in. I started taking a closer look. They pulled the hatch off of the brick and they left the hatch around the top of the windows. And my thought process was that we would do not all the detail I show on the drawings, which is all the little bricks, but I would like to do just a line that goes up. It looks like it's a soldier course and come back down. So it would just be a score line that represents what the soldier course outline would look like on the arched window.
Mr. Greenbaum?
Is there any possibility that you can maintain the masonry facade? I mean, I know it's an economic decision.
It's not even economic anymore. I think if I do it, it's just I could prepare areas, other areas are going to start falling off. I mean, I got 13 years out of it the way it was. So, at this point, I think it's the best solution. You know, if there was a possibility, if there was a way, I mean, you go around that building, there's loose areas all over the place on it right now.
If you weren't an architect, I would be somewhat suspect, and the fact that you own the building would make me, both of those things make me less suspect, because you will have to presume you took the best care to try to preserve the building, knowing that it has, the masonry structure is, you know, intrinsic to the structure of the building, and it's a shame to hide it.
Yeah. I didn't hide it on the inside, I actually took the time and cleaned all the brick on the inside of the building and when I bought it, and I spent the dollars back to try to keep it the best I could for the longest I could. What's unique is, although we're going to stucco and it's become more of a monolithic looking building without the brick lines in it,
Right.
the paint from far away, if you look at the pictures and just take a look at it, it looks like a monolithic building. The paint has painted, the brick are painted, the joint lines, the borders all painted, so it's kind of got that monolithic look already. Of course, when you're up close, you're not going to see the brick irregularity, the joint lines when you're up close. But from far away, driving by, it's essentially going to look pretty similar.
One of my other questions is, with the 3/4 inch depth, you have these, looks like a flagstone or bluestone type lintels under the windows, and will those still maintain their projection?
But they all stick out. We went around actually and measured all of them based on Mr. Conley's report too, because I knew they stuck out, but I wanted to go double check. And they all stick out, you know, anywhere from 1.25 inches to almost 2 inches. They're very irregular. And so we'll still have a projection there. It's not going to disappear and it's not going to be recessed in, so we'll still project a little bit.
And there's no thinner coating that you could possibly use?
Now, because if you do, and the building moves at all, it's going to crack. So you have to have that wire mesh behind it to help keep everything together, so I don't have cracking throughout the whole stucco. That's the most minimal you could do.
My question is, it looks as though there's a coating on top of this brick. Is that,
Yeah, so that was areas probably where I had to repair. If you look at some of those old pictures I gave you, you can see how,
these pictures?
yes, how the brick was really spalling bad in a lot of different areas. So like I said, I used a Sika product that was like a cementous product that adhered to the brick. And then we troweled in lines to make it look like the brick pattern was still there. So you'll find patches all on the facade of that building.
Would you consider doing that again?
It's going to fail on me again, and there's so many different...
No, I meant on the stucco. I think my colleague asked that question, but I didn't hear your answer. Are you going to score the stucco, or no?
No, we can't score the stucco at this point. It's just be too much to score.
He's doing joint lines to continue the corbelling
Right.
on
the top.
On the top on 2 elevations.
Correct, and a couple vertical lines I just have to introduce slightly. I put them by the gutter, by the leaders coming down, just so when it comes around building and the expansion of the building, I'm trying to limit where it would crack, basically, as it goes around. So I added 1 score line underneath the sill of the windows that wraps around the building. You see it predominantly on the west elevation. And the reason I did that is, one, you need to break up the facade too, where all these, for cracking, and number 2, is I've had my building graffitied before. Painted it. So in this case, if I figured if I put that score line there, I could stucco from that line down.
Oh, okay.
So just so I understand, basically what you intend to do is put another 3-system stucco on top of what you've already done?
Correct.
Okay, and the one that you did originally was 1/2 inch thick, and this is going to be...
No. Originally, I was just filling in the voids from the brick. I was trying to recreate the brick that had spalled off over the life of the building.
Okay.
So my initial stucco was just taking cavities of the brick that had spalled off from freezing and thawing that got into the brick,
Right.
and filling that in and leveling it out and scoring it in, so it looked like, so I didn't
So
project.
it was a patch of
It was a
a
patch
1/2 inch.
system, correct.
So this is going to be entirely encased in 3/4?
That's correct.
Okay,
Before it was a patch system.
Let me just ask you, may I ask a question?
sure.
Aren't there materials, almost like a translucent coating product that you can roll onto the existing brick? Let's say you sandblasted it. So you got
Never
the paint off.
sandblast.
Huh?
Never sandblast.
I don't have much brick left if I sandblast.
Well, all I'm saying is there any way to apply, I guess with the paint now it's harder, but to put some kind of translucent coating over it, and then in the areas where the brick, is damaged, to then do a casting, like a rubber casting. There's products that you can cast and do a cementitious patch and then cast it onto those areas?
It's sort of what I did the first time, is I kind of patched areas, scored lines, creating a...
Do you really want to, ideally, do you really want to cover up the brick?
I do not, but it's the only solution. I've had brick guys out there, I've had my paint manufacturers out there. It's my only solution. I like it the way it is. I spent the money the first time to do it.
I admire this building very much whenever I see it.
But as long as, but I really can't save the brick. I wish I could. I honestly do. It's also my image of my office, so now I have clients coming and the building's starting to spall, and I almost feel embarrassed how bad it's getting at this point. That's why I have to take care of it.
Do you suppose that the brick had when you bought it, had a coating on it that forced it to spall?
I think a lot has to do with the paint on this brick.
Yeah.
I think what happens is, and what my paint manufacturer's telling me, is that the weight of the paint now is starting to become an issue on it too. That's starting to weigh on it, and when water gets behind the paint, it's kind of trapped. So now I get moisture. A crack gets behind the paint. That's trapping moisture behind, freezing and thawing, and it's spalling Well, it wasn't a good brick. Like I said, if you have the opportunity, go by Just Jake's, and they keep on painting their building, but there's major cavities in their building, especially on the Portland side. I was looking at it the other day.
Do you think if you put some kind of cornice or something that would allow the water to not drip down the side, because you don't have any kind of cornice to bring the water away from the face of the building, do you think that could?
That would change the look of it, too. I mean, I could do something with a little stepping out, metal
Yeah.
cornice or something like that, but I wouldn't do too much of a cornice on it.
Or even an external, like a copper, I mean, actually, I think it would look handsome with a copper, molded cornice. I'm just saying, to get the water, if the water is coming from down.
I think even, like,
Hmm?
I even think water just coming on the face of the building, like all my windowsills, when I did the restoration, I used similarly divided Marvin arch-top windows. I can't tell you how much I spent on my Marvin windows. And just recently, this summer, all my windowsills are rotted out. They're all wood windows.
So yeah.
So I had to replace if you go by my building, you'll see, they're all primed a little bit different color right now. But I replaced every windowsill, 13-year-old windows.
I would just think that,
13.
this is just a suggestion, and of course, this is your profession, but I would think that because there's nothing to kind of have a drip edge along the top, that's probably where your water problem is coming from. If you had some kind of drip edge.
Well, we need to come back to what we're discussing now with the recommendations from Mr. Conley, but which you provided a wall section with dimensions showing the existing masonry with the applied stucco. So you do show that there will be a bump out of the stone sill on this, what you just handed us tonight.
That's correct.
And that will remain the natural color that it is?
It's actually painted, too, because if you look at the original pictures, they were all white.
Great. Oh,
So I actually painted it, it's a painted color.
Are you going to paint it at the end the same color as it was?
Well, the stucco's going to be the same color. So it's not going to be a painted building, it's going to be a stucco building.
Oh, so the stucco will be pigmented to this color?
That
the
is
current
correct.
color?
That's correct. And the sills are going to get repainted the same color, and the windows are going to get painted the same color. So everything's going to be polished brand new. I have to put a new coping up on top. That's going to extend out a little bit further. And maybe I'll bring it out with a little bigger drip on it. That's a good suggestion. But not change the profile too much.
No.
So, Mr. Conley's report, he says that there's concern that the use of this applied material will alter the visual appearance. But what you're saying is that the color will be the same, and appearance-wise, it will look very similar to what we have now.
Correct.
you
And
have
what I want to
Well,
offer,
we're losing the masonry fixtures.
Right.
you're losing the detail of the brick when you get up close to it, seeing the joint lines in it, but from far away, as you can
Yeah.
see in the pictures, what I like to offer is it still has that monolithic look to it, where because it's all painted. If it was brick with mortar joints that you saw, it would have a different look to it.
And you'll completely lose the arch over the window?
No.
No, the arch, they're all arch windows, they're all going to stay.
No, I mean, I know that, but the
brick detail.
the brick
That's gonna-
detail over it.
It's going to be the score.
I was speaking to my stucco contractor that I deal with. He does a lot of stucco work like this, and he's like, "Well, you could take face brick and put it up around them." I'm like, "That's the different look. It's not the building we're looking for." I said, "We could do can you do me a score line and make it look like we were talking about before, being a soldier course height, about 8
Right.
inches, and follow that same arch, so it has the look of a header, an arched header going around," and that's what I want to propose to do.
Okay, so that's one of the recommendations. I mean, that's what you're
The
proposing.
condition, yeah.
Conditions, okay.
Condition, yes, I'll accept that.
And then the other thing that Mr. Conley had concern about was the anchoring method for the new stucco.
And I spoke to my, Stowe is one of the companies, Drive It, Stowe. I spoke to my Stowe representative today. Typically, they nail it,
Right,
typically into the mortar, not into the brick. So I'm not as much concerned as Mr. Conley is. We could try screwing it and see, and it will just go just as quick. So it's either it's just shooting it into the mortar, or they'll screw it in. So I'm going to do whatever least damages the brick, because the brick's a structural part of the building.
right.
And That's what I could say at this point. You know,
So the
that's gonna make
anchor
sure
will be
whatever
into the-
anchors right into that brick and that mortar. I can't say it's not gonna be nails at this point.
Right.
I just wanna
okay.
make sure whatever anchors best ends, that's gonna keep the best attachment to the mesh is what I'm looking for. See, it's typically a 3-inch, 3/4-inch nail with a washer on it, is typically what they put in.
Okay, all right, thank you. Are there any other questions? No. So, considering what Mr. Conley has written here, how do you feel about?
Are we going to open up for comments? or
Yes,
we just gonna
comments.
Make a motion. But I'm fine with the application as proposed, with the condition regarding the scoring of the windows.
And the retention of the corbelling.
Yes.
Scoring windows, retention of corbelling.
And the
Scoring
projection of all the lintels must remain, clear.
Right.
They mustn't be made flush.
And also the way, the anchors should be driven into the
Mortar.
mortar.
It's regrettable that the masonry facade can't be preserved. I take your word for it. And the fact, again, as an expert, as an architect, and as
Appreciate
a owner, I have to rely upon your best judgment.
I
But
appreciate that.
it's not ideal.
I agree with you on that, too.
So could we approve this conditional approval, or should?
Well, it's approved subject to the conditions that the 4 conditions that were listed. But there'll be a
Okay.
certificate at the next meeting in 2 weeks. that
Okay,
lists those
and so we have the
conditions.
4 conditions.
Mhm.
Would you read them back?
Yeah, sure. The score line above the windows should be replicated, that should be applied to the proposed stucco to replicate the existing look of the windows. Retention of the corbelling detail on the, I guess it's the south and east facades. And maintain the projection of the window sills, and the anchor should be driven into mortar joints only.
I have one quick question. Are there any other changes that are not included in our discussion tonight that we should be aware
No,
of?
everything else is staying the same. I have to change the coping, the metal coping is going to have to change up on top.
The metal lintel will remain over the
Yes.
header
Yep.
seal? Okay.
Yep, the carriage doors you see are really a wall.
Mhm.
Those aren't doors. Actually, one of the handles, one of the pieces of trim fell off, the handle broke, I'm going to replace that.
And the metal projection where I guess they had a lift, a pulley?
Yeah, it's
will
going to stay.
remain?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And the shutters that are on, the fake shutters that are underneath that
Mhm.
will be painted and will remain as well. I'll probably take them off, run the stucco back in, and then put them back on.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Handsome building.
Very handsome building.
Do you want to take these?
And I
Those
would
should
love
go-
to keep
They go with
this.
the,
Huh?
I would love to keep it. I actually came in front of the board and got this approved once before and still did what you said and kept it for another 13 years.
Maybe-
I tried.
maybe- maybe-
I tried my hardest.
Just, we'll have faith that you care about it as much as we do, or more, hopefully more.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Ooh. Next up on the agenda is a referral from the Board of Adjustment, application 2647, 48 Label Street. This is the subject property is located in the Christopher Street Potential Historic Resource Area. Area has been identified in the 2016 Historic Preservation element of the Township Master Plan, which notes the following of the Christopher Street area. Christopher Hank laid out the Christopher Street area between 1885 and 1901 and developed it between 1900 and 1929. The area consists of 2 to 3 4-story homes built in a variety of styles, including Queen Anne, shingle, and 20th century revival. And the application has been referred to the Historic Preservation Commission for advice as required under Montclair Code 347-142. So, good evening. Could you raise your right hand and Mr. Krasik will swear you in?
I do solemnly swear that the testimony you're going to give the commission is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. Could you state your name, please, and your relationship to the applicant? You probably are the applicant, but go ahead.
John Floric, I'm the homeowner, the applicant, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Flora, could you briefly tell us what the project entails?
Sure. I'm looking for a bulk variance to add an additional story to an existing property. At 48 Label, I need variances on all 4 sides. I don't know if that...
No, you're here before the Historic
Right.
Preservation
Right.
Commission, and we're actually looking at the facade, the development that you propose, and how it fits within the proposed historic district.
Right.
So we really don't have any say. That will be
But
determined.
we have to we're giving the Board of Adjustment our advice for their decision, though.
Yes, in terms of how this proposed addition will fit into the historic district. So in terms of, height and mass, we can have a recommendation for that, but we really have no say over, we can't discuss the variances. Maybe, Mr. Petto, you could clarify.
I could go over some of the materials.
Yeah, Graham, wait, aren't we supposed to be able to
So the zoning
advise-
board of adjustment has jurisdiction over to approve the variance
Yes.
relief that's required under this application. The applicant is here tonight to present to the commission for the commission to weigh in on the appropriateness of the modifications with respect to the potential historic district.
And also whether, if there are issues pertaining to the variance, whether they are consistent from a historic point of view, et
I'll let
cetera.
Mr. Karasik.
Aren't we somewhat of
Well-
an advisor to the Board of Adjustment?
Well, the variance per se, you don't have any jurisdiction over or comment over, but the application as a whole, if he wants to convert a private house into a convenience store or whatever, and he needs a use variance for that, you can say that you think that the use that's being proposed is inappropriate in the historic district. That's certainly within your bounds. In other words, you're not directly addressing the variance so much, but you're addressing the consequence of the variance, so to speak. So, I mean, focus on how whatever this gentleman wants to do impacts the historic
The
district,
proposed district.
as was stated by the chair. And if part of that is that the use that's being proposed is not appropriate, then you say that.
This is not, this is not a use variance, is it?
No.
The request? It's
No,
a-
but I was just using that as...
Right,
As
so
an
this is,
example.
but the issue of setbacks and things of that nature, isn't that pretty much part of what we're looking at?
You're looking at the application, the entirety of the application, and you're going to advise the zoning board to what extent the application, in other words, the proposed project, fits or doesn't fit in the historic district. And that's what your job is.
Right, so with that, we can discuss what the materials are, the height, the bulk, that we do have, that's what our recommendation would be.
Right, okay.
Okay, so, going forward, can you,
Sure, so I guess my plans are to add the additional story, and I wanted to use wood siding and composite cement siding. I looked over some of the comments that Mr. Connolly had prepared, so I kind of came prepared to address some of these things here. Oh, sorry.
okay, just a second, let us all get on the same page.
Okay.
So,
I didn't see Connolly's report on this.
It's the last page,
Last page of
The memo.
the memo. Keep going.
Got it.
Okay. So, what you just testified is that you're proposing to keep it as a residential residence, one
use-
family?
The use will be exactly the same.
Okay, and you're proposing to add, what were the materials, the new materials that you were using for siding?
Cement composite and wood siding. I believe it's currently vinyl siding. And then the roof, I would do a metal roof, which I believe is just shingles currently.
Okay. So, I guess with that, we'll go with the memo that Mr. Conley has prepared and go over it number by number. So, the first thing he says is that the proposed design is compatible with the adjacent building in scale, massing, and height. The second one is proposed exterior details should adhere to established neighborhood design principles and should contribute to the overall character of the historic area in terms of building features, opening details, materials, and textures. So we've kind of gone off the way we ask questions, but I would ask what the materials, how you see the materials are compatible with this, with the historic district.
Right. I've seen some other properties close in proximity that appear to have similar materials that are used. I have this property. It's 2 blocks away from my house on Willard Place.
On what place?
Willard.
Oh, is that within the proposed historic district?
I am not
That's
sure.
that new building that they put up on Willard Place, Willard's that little.
That's within the Walnut Street potential
Well,
historic
okay.
district,
Do you
which is
want
very
to-
similar.
do you
Yeah,
need-
you can pass that.
I'm sorry, I only have one. I didn't
We'll pass
It's
it.
okay.
realize. Just start with you.
Thank you.
And I believe they use casement windows as well on that property, which I know sometimes they might, it feels like in this, they might have been an issue. So, I could do French casement windows with grills on them maybe to make them look more like the standard double hung windows that are in the area. I don't know.
Do you want to look at this? Okay, so the materials that you're proposing, though, which is the roof, the, are not consistent with the historic district.
I understand they're a little outside.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's just go over these first, and then we'll ask questions. Number 3, we talked about the doors and the windows. You just mentioned that you could possibly change the design of the windows. And then the foundation, the existing foundation, I can't tell, is it a painted brick?
Cement, yes.
Okay.
I'm, if you guys think the best move is to repair what's there and not cover it up, I'm happy to do that as well.
Okay. And the lighting, exterior light fixtures would come back to a committee that we would go over it. And then the front porch, landing and stairs, is it new?
That would remain. It would just be the railing that I'd replace.
Okay, but now they appear to be, what are they, brick? Not brick, they're stone?
Yeah, it's basically the same stone that's around the foundation. Would
Okay.
go on the front part that you.
The risers.
Right. Yes.
And then the railing would be replaced?
Correct.
Are you an architect?
No,
You prepared all these plans?
with a consultant. I come from a background in design.
Okay, so is there anything else that you want to add as far as your testimony?
I have lights.
You have lights?
For number 5, applicant should provide all
Okay.
proposed exterior lighting fixtures. Printed out a couple that I was anticipating using, and I would take whatever you guys recommended into consideration.
Well, usually we come back to it.
Come back to that.
Yeah, so.
I mean, customarily, how the commission handles this is they
Mhm.
request that the zoning board impose a condition that you go back, that you come back to the revisions committee of the HPC when you're ready with your final material selections and present those.
Okay,
And that's just at a subcommittee level on site we meet, so you don't have to worry about that specific detail right at this time.
Oh, we can still see it, right?
If you'd like, you can review it, or we can
You'd
just
like,
hold
yeah.
it till.
Yeah.
so these are the 3 that I these are my favorite.
Okay. So, any further testimony on your parts, aside from when we look at the lights?
I think I've done enough.
Okay. So then we'll open it up to questions from the commission. Mr. Rooney, do you want to start?
Yeah, the exterior cladding, you know, it's handsome, what you've done, but it's not really compatible with what's the rest of the district, which is more horizontal, using shiplap siding. And the vertical board and batten. Other than that house, I don't think it goes with anything. I have a question. The way that you've done the proposed streetscape, I don't know what you call that on top. What's the depth of all of that? The depth of your eave and the cross member? Where does it fall?
The depth of
The top of, you know, the top of your
property.
gables?
Probably like I would say 3 feet. I don't have the specific measurement.
Well, what I'm trying to say is it's not like an application onto the side of the building that's actually freestanding. The
Like
cross
truss?
members?
Yeah.
Right.
Right, it's freestanding, it's pulled away from
It
that.
would be, yes.
Right. Your, I don't know what that's called, the third, what you're making the third floor doesn't seem to have any eaves, it just goes straight up.
Mhm.
Whereas the second house over has some eaves there, giving it a little bit of more
I
dimensions.
believe I have a little bit there, but
It just doesn't
it
show.
doesn't show. Okay.
You don't have any shadowing.
Is that the only real drawing we have of the facade?
Yes.
What do you, what, page
Oh,
5?
there's page 5.
Page
there's a
5
drawing,
is the
yeah.
front facade elevation.
In detail
So-
1.
So Steve, what is, just a minute, what is your point, what is your point about?
Well, there didn't seem to, in this drawing, this roof up in the back, it didn't look like there was an eave, it looked like it went straight up.
Ah.
There was nothing there.
Right.
Whereas the house 2 houses over does have one. If you look at this house, it's got a little bit of an eave there.
I believe on page 5 you see a little bit of that from a different angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just would, I mean, massing's a different story, but I would make the eave on your addition on the 3rd floor the same as you have on the second floor. Just to keep it. And also the basement level or the foundation, no stone veneer. I mean,
You don't want
historically,
that.
these houses didn't have stone
Mhm.
veneers, or some of them may have had stone, but
It was the rubble stone.
it would be a rubble stone.
Yeah,
Any-
I'm happy to move that.
Any other questions?
No?
Mr. Greenbaum, questions?
I have a few. So I'm working from a drawing that's about 4 inches big. And basically, the main elevation, which is the one that we're most concerned with in terms of visual context with the district, I mean, we're only going by this. So I feel that we're a little bit at a disadvantage.
Okay.
I'm going to ask, just in terms of the materiality again, the wooden, I'm guessing it's a wooden material that's running horizontally, that's making up most of the third floor. What is that material? Is it like a redwood,
Oh, well,
a cedar?
probably a cedar, you know, I can, on the second hearing, give you a specific type of wood that,
I think you're agreeing to present final finished materials to the commission should the zoning board approve it. So he's agreeing to return. I think that it seems like the materiality that Mr. Floric is proposing is a concern of the commission. I think that your
Yes.
report to the zoning board of adjustment should say that the applicant should return to, one, that you want the applicant to use more appropriate materials for the historic district, and two, that the commission wants to review and approve those materials should the zoning board approve the variances for the application.
So that should be written.
That should be the condition.
That should be, the
Well,
yeah.
I have other questions. The penetrations, the window penetrations, I just wonder, and again, I don't know, I have to look at the floor plan. I haven't linked up the windows to the floor plan, but it seems to me that above the entry door, that fascia, you only have the one window in the front of the building, in the center, in that projection. It seems to me, unless of course you have a staircase there or something that would make that not suitable, but it would be I think you'd want a window to the right of the main window, directly above the front door.
I don't know that I have the height to add a window above, that you're talking about above the door?
On the next floor,
Oh, you mean on the second floor.
on the
Oh.
second floor.
Oh, on the second floor, okay.
On that cedar portion.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
It
gotcha.
just seems like every other building on the street has a second window, or, and also just from a design point of view, it just seems to me you'd want more light and you'd
That-
want to lighten the facade a bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. It would have to be a smaller window, though.
It gets very
This
small.
house is narrower than the others.
So, I don't know, I don't know what the total width.
It would be a fake window because it's going into a wall and a closet.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't look at the plan yet. And then the other thing is, above where you have the truss, again, there's under the pitch, the peak of the roof, the other two buildings immediately next to it have a window there. Again, this is your third floor. Have you thought about putting a window there? Even a round one?
I did think about putting a window there, maybe a round window would work better, but you'll see on the inside, there's also a bathroom right there.
You couldn't possibly have the bathroom set up in such a way where you have a window coming into the bathroom?
It's in the shower.
It's in the shower, so it becomes a privacy issue, I guess.
Right. Well, I'm just,
Yeah.
it gets tricky. We can't really make comments about your interior configuration,
Understood.
but we have to consider the exterior.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine that we could, if we agree on it, might say we think a window belongs there. That might require you to reconfigure your bathroom. But I think we have that ability to make that stipulation, don't we?
It's a recommendation.
Okay. So, and the other thing is, I noticed, here's another point, whether or not we agree mutually and when we make a decision on vote, right now you have the stone veneer below the vertical I don't know what you want to call it. Is that a standing seam metal on the face?
No, board and batten.
Board and batten, okay. So in that board and batten, you don't have any kind of horizontal, like drip edge, like a bluestone or some kind of drip edge, which I think would be, again, I'm crossing over a little bit into the line, but I would suggest having a drip edge there to kind of bring some horizontality there. It seems like the transition is too abrupt.
Okay.
And then the other question is under the windows, and again, this is kind of, I think you're trying to go for like this, I'm seeing this as kind of a California, Portland, Oregon kind of aesthetic. And I mean, under the windows themselves, you have no lintel of any sort, or any kind of, you don't have any framing around the window. It's all flush. And I just want to bring that out to my colleagues' attention as something that we should think about whether or not we think that's appropriate, to be flush with the window. And I don't know how to use the correct terminology, but also, are the windows flush with the front surface? Are they set back? Is there any depth? You know?
I would have put like molding around them, that sticks out from the facade of probably 3/8 of an inch. And they probably would have been recessed a little bit from,
The windows?
yeah, as to opposed.
See, this is the thing. I feel to give you the benefit of our best judgment, not only to evaluate from the point of view of appropriateness from our role, but also to be able to provide you positive feedback. I think it would be very helpful if you came back with a rendering that was of a scale and clarity that we could actually evaluate it in a way that we can be helpful and effective at our job. Right now, we're looking at less than a 3-inch drawing.
Yes.
But
So,
I think, and typically what we've done in these past situations, we've had success on previous zoning board applications. We request that the board impose a condition that the applicant return with a modified plan to meet the recommendations of the commission, and present it to the commission.
But
So,
what happens if, let's say, the Board of Adjustment reviews it, and let's say they approve it hypothetically, okay? And then he comes back to us,
Mhm.
and we have commentary that's of substance
Mhm.
that might effectuate the design.
If it's mutually agreeable between the applicant and the commission, then it moves forward and he makes the modifications. If the applicant objects, has to go back to the Board of Adjustment, and the commission has to be present to assist the board in that deliberation. The board is the ultimate decider of that.
No, I understand who has the ultimate decision as it relates to the variance. I'm just thinking that if
That would
there was-
even, that would be even the materiality or design elements. The board has final jurisdiction over the approved plan. So the board will impose a condition that says, applicant, you must go back and work things out with the HPC and come to a mutual understanding. Should you not be able to come to a mutual agreement, then you'll have to come back to the zoning board of adjustment, and we will help decide what the final plan shall be.
Okay.
That's how that works.
Well, I think, being that the Board of Adjustment has some weighing in on the materiality, et cetera, I would...
They will show deference to you, and that's why I recommend that the language in that prior condition that I noted before, that the commission just broadly state that they find that the material selection presented by the applicant is inconsistent with the potential historic district, and that
Right.
should be revised. They should present a revised plan back to this body for
And
final review and approval.
I would add to that condition a scaled elevation that shows the building so that we can look at it and actually review it with, there should be sufficient detail so that we can have something to work from. Otherwise,
Yeah, I think we all agreed
Mhm.
on that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
so
right.
let's
We just
move
need-
on. But
we need
let's,
Yeah, we can
before
focus
he
on
puts
wording
that
those
work in, let's
conditions,
get this
right.
to the boards to see if he even gets the variances.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
there may be a point where the board only approves certain of these
Yeah.
variances, which may necessitate even further modification of these
Right.
plans. They may not approve all of the requested variances sought by the applicant,
So,
which may change
but I do
things.
think the Board of Adjustment would benefit from seeing a plan that was more, an elevation that's more
No, 'cause-
specific.
but they're not that concerned.
no.
Right.
They're going to address the variances and the
Right.
bulk of the massing. So I think what we should just do is move this along, make the recommendation that he comes back, and I think we can give him our comments on what we think based on what he's presented, so that, he has a head start should
Right.
he get the variances, and and in
Right.
prepping. So
When
let's
he
let's
comes-
move forward and just
But
give
when he
him
comes
a-
back to us,
Yes,
he should
but-
have a better elevation.
Yes, so let's just
Well, we
tell
can-
him.
No, I
what
agree,
we
that's what
think.
I'm just making sure.
So,
That's it.
any other discussion in terms of anybody sitting up here? No. Okay.
Are we talking about discussion or questions? Are we-
I think we're done with
I think we're
questions.
done with
I think let's just
questions.
Right, so now it's
make our
discussion.
comments.
Yeah,
Like, I
but
think
you-
we've got our
Right.
recommendation for him to come back.
Mhm.
So before we wrap this up, let's just tell him what we think.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
so you want to go one by one?
So the first one will be that the materials have to be more appropriate and consistent within the historic district, which means that the redwood siding, I think we should be specific.
I think that you probably could just lift Mr. Connolly's conditions 2
Right.
and 3
Okay.
and put those
Okay.
in the report. And we can work on tweaking some of that language to say the presented exterior details and finishes do not adhere to the neighborhood design principles and do not contribute to the overall character of the historic area, and those terms.
And I think in terms of the bulk and the massing, it's
Mhm.
consistent with the neighborhood, so we could recommend that he gets the variances.
Okay, so we can do that, so
Subject
then we'll
to-
include number 1 as well.
I think the issue is the materials.
Mhm.
I think it just looks a little too modern.
Yeah, so item 1 of Mr. Connolly's report says that the proposed design is compatible with the adjacent
Mhm.
buildings in scale, massing, and height. So I think 1, 2, and 3 for Mr. Connolly's report.
And also 4, the foundation.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, 4.
Definitely
Mhm.
4. And
Here's the light.
And then I think that we should do, so 4, and then 5 should be applicant returned to present final materials and finishes for review with the HPC.
which would include the lighting.
Including
and-
lighting and all
railing?
exterior
Yeah.
finishes.
Put the lighting on the drawings.
And the placement of the lighting
Is
of the
there,
drawings.
you're eliminating the chimney entirely? There won't be any chimney?
Yes. Yes. It's, right now where it is, it's kind of like right behind my half story.
Is
So-
the fireplace still even there?
No,
Yeah.
there's no
But
fire.
don't you have to vent your gas or whatever? Isn't there, don't you have some kind of venting you need to use?
Right, we would have to use venting, but we could do that through a window in the basement.
Okay.
And then the other 2 that I heard were to match the eave of the dormer with the second floor eaves. 7 would be to incorporate additional fenestration at the second floor above the entry door and the third floor at the eave, or at the peak
Right.
of the roof. And then condition 8 would be that the applicant return to present a final plan to the commission for approval.
With a fully detailed elevation.
Okay.
Now, do you want just the elevation or rendering?
Rendering would be ideal.
Okay.
When is this on the docket for?
This, Mr. Fleur, was scheduled for next week's zoning board of adjustment
Oh.
meeting. Unfortunately, the Montclair Times failed to publish his notice.
Oh.
An error on the paper's part, which we usually don't get. So he'll be heard at November 13th at the board.
Okay. Okay.
Okay?
Yes, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next application. Our next application is a referral from the Planning Board, application 2656 88 Bay Street. It's a minor site plan approval for new off-street parking area. It's within the Bay Street Historic District.
Pine Street.
Pine Street Historic District. The applicant proposes to rehabilitate the rear residential building and construct a new off-street parking area for 4 vehicles located between the front and rear dwellings. And as noted, this is in the Pine Street Historic District. The Pine Street Historic District is a local landmark district. The front building on the subject property is identified in the 2005 nomination report and is identified as a harmonizing or altered structure. The rear structure, subject of this application, is not identified in the report, but our consultant believes it is a carriage house that went to the front property. And this application is referred to us as, for advice, as required under Montclair Code 34-7-142. So, hello, could you, Mr. Krasik will swear you in, so if you can identify yourself.
Gentlemen, raise your right hands, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're going to give this commission is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and could each of you just identify yourself and your relation to the applicant?
John Guadagnoli, architect. My office is here in town on Walnut Street. I prepared the drawings that were submitted.
Robert Hildebrandt, I am the owner.
Okay, Mr. Guagnoli, could you go over and tell us briefly what you are intending to do?
Yes. The existing structure, you know, it's there are two buildings on the site. This is the rear one. It's been derelict for many years. Mr. Hildebrandt bought the property and he wishes to restore it to what, to the two-family that it was. The structure contains stairs and had two kitchens and it's a two-family home. It's just that it was derelict for so many years that, it requires a lot of rehabilitation. There's nothing left of whatever the building used to be. There is no original siding under the vinyl siding you see there. There is, the windows are all vinyl replacements and all smaller than the ones that were original and in different locations. I know this because the building is stripped to the stud inside, and you can see where the old openings were, and the new ones have nothing to do with a lot of them. Okay, and the building is basically right now just vinyl siding and aluminum trim everywhere. Even the cornice corners are covered or clad in aluminum. So what we wish to do is just simply do the best we can with what we have. That we're not restoring anything. There's nothing to restore. The only thing Italianate about the building right now is the shape. But we would like to do the best we can, and we submitted the drawings, and I got some comments from Mr. Connolly. There are 7 of them, and I'd like to go through them.
Okay.
And what I did was I responded to those comments with drawings, revised drawings, so I could pass them out.
Oh,
Yes.
please.
So you can see the old and the new. Right? Good.
The two-story building is separate and apart. It's a separate property from the building on Bay Street.
It's the same property. It has 2 structures on it.
Two
Same
buildings
owner?
on one lot.
It's one site.
Oh, that's what I thought. I
This
just
is the
wanted to make
front
sure.
building, right? That's the front?
Sorry.
That's the front,
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're focusing only on the secondary structure.
Yep.
Here.
Great, the one that is drawn, that you looked at on the preliminary, the plans we got before this.
Right.
Okay, so why don't we go through the, Mr. Conley's comments, and then if we have any questions, we can open up to questions from the commission.
It says here, the applicant should consider the relationship of wall to opening and possibly reducing the number of windows on the east elevation. Many classical buildings have 3, 5, or 7 bays, meaning windows. Equally spaced bays feel static. To address that, what we did was we clustered the middle 2 so that we in fact did create 3 windows instead of 4. The even window number goes to the idea that there was probably pilasters between, in a classical building, you always have an even number, and so the building number is always odd. So when you have 4 windows, or 6, that's kind of odd. So I see I made 3 windows, but the middle one being larger, and I hope that addresses the issue.
Okay,
Historically, Italian Renaissance windows should be 2/2 double hung, which we've addressed. You can see on the revised drawings that we show 2/2 double hungs all around. Okay. Oh, by the way, the handout I gave you, it's only what you see from the street. I didn't go to the alleyway, because we're kind of taking all the windows out of there anyway. It's only got about a floor.
When you say out, you mean this, the western?
Yes.
The western facade?
The western facade is like...
It's very close.
Yeah, and there's no, even for fire reasons, we'd like to, just close that off, just for
Okay.
fires. Okay, and the back is only faces like a parking lot, and it has windows, it's just that, it'll have the same windows, it's just that the corrections can all be seen on the first two elevations. The third issue is the one, vinyl siding is not preferred. If feasible, remove existing vinyl siding and restore the historic siding material, or choose a synthetic siding that most closely matches the shape, size, profile, and texture of wood siding. To that end, what Mr. Hildebrandt would like to do is on the corners and the window trim, make that a solid material. Yes, we don't want those hollow corners that you see on vinyl. However, in trying to renovate the building, he has to keep enough of it, or else he has to take it down. And if he takes it down, he has to go for variances and all. So, in maintaining the existing building, he is straightening things out as best he can, but it's always going to be a little wavy, short of replacing everything, which opens a can of worms we don't want to get into. So, we're a little concerned that something like a hardy board, or some solid, composite material would really exaggerate the waviness, and every single house in the neighborhood is vinyl. There's not one wood house. I mean, the front house is vinyl, across the street's vinyl. Here and there, there's a stucco house, and next door to is a brick building. The one on the right is brick, yes. But other than that, everything's vinyl, and so we were kind of like, it becomes even an economic issue. It's costing much more to renovate this building this way rather than rip it. He'd rather rip it down and build the exact same thing new. But he can't, because once you rip it down, you're bound by a lot of new regulations, as you probably know. So anyway, so we would like to keep the vinyl if at all possible, just for economic reasons, or at least.
May I just ask, is the vinyl covering the original clapboard?
There is no. There's just sheathing and vinyl. So that siding is long gone, or else, I would have loved to, restore it, sure. But we're not restoring anything. It's not there, There's
Right.
that's the only thing. And I'll just keep going. I'm just telling you our wishes.
Yes,
and
number 4. I just
answer
wanted to
questions.
clarify that.
As the proposed new one-story porch, the corners should wrap the side fully and resolve into the building, or wrap around the corner and not meet the wall flush. I assume Mr. Connolly was talking about where the entrance is. Okay, so what we did was we did wrap it around. We made like a hip roof instead of like a chopped, shed roof that you see in the original. I think that's what he meant. I'm guessing. It was a little confusing, but I think that's what he meant. And the pilaster or engaged column should always be used where the porch meets the building. Do not set a full column next to the wall, which is what we did. We revised that to do the half column.
Which is right here.
Yeah, in 2 locations, exactly, right there and
here.
and here, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that would be like a half applied pilaster against the building.
Okay, great.
Historically, roofs are set at a slope of between 3 on 12 and 6 on 12. The original was 6 on 12, but just to play it safe, we reduced it to 4 on 12. So we fall within the.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, I didn't understand that. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, the picture of the roof, the way we had it drawn in the original, it looked steeper than Mr. Connolly felt was appropriate, so we.
The roof of the portico?
Yes.
Yeah, right here.
I got it. Just want to make sure, because it's
Okay.
a flat roof,
Yeah.
I can understand what you're talking about.
So we eased it down to 4 on 12, which is, less visible.
Okay.
Applicant shall provide information on all proposed exterior light fixtures. I assume he means whatever's attached to the building, which you have in your, that second sheet. It's just going to be 2 light fixtures under the porch next to the doors. They're the closest I could approximate to an Italian 8 style, and they're not that big. They're just little porch lights,
So where would they be placed? On here?
Oh, I'm sorry. If you look at the floor plan, on the original submission, it points out where the lights would go. You see on the upper left corner, the upper left first floor plan, you can see where the light fixtures would go. these, do you see the porch, the covered area?
Yes.
You see those on the wall, there's a little X in a circle, that's a little bracket light.
On this page?
Yes.
Where is it?
Is it the bottom left,
Sorry.
first floor?
Right over.
Your left
You're
side.
talking
your-
about-
Wait, where the,
No, they're not there.
oh,
Yeah, we just have S1.
this is the site plan. Oh, I'm sorry, okay, I have one. I'll show you, I'm sorry, yeah. You don't have this?
No.
Wait a minute.
No,
No.
no,
No.
no, we don't,
Wait a second. No.
no.
We're looking at
We're looking at
Site
this.
plan.
Okay, that was submitted for site plan, of course, yes. This is, sorry.
Okay.
So what is that?
This is what I thought you had, it shows pictures of the cornice.
We have
and the building.
S1, not A1.
Okay.
Is this
Oh,
Portland?
because S1 was the submission to for a site plan, and, okay. Anyway, to answer the question, there's the porch, and the
Okay.
light fixture will be there and there. Right here. Right. You can pass that around, it's got pictures
Okay.
of there. I'm so, all right.
Right there, right there.
Okay. Here we go, there's two. Here.
Yeah,
Is it on the internet? Is it
it's on the internet,
website?
it's on the
Okay.
website.
All right. No, we didn't get that in our packet.
Well, wait a minute, it's not.
No, it makes sense, because
No,
they told us about this meeting after we submitted, so
Okay.
that's why, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so to circle back, with Mr. Conley's comments, you have addressed all of them, and I responded to his suggestions. And the one that would be something that we would have to discuss would be number 3, which is about the vinyl siding.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is that, any other testimony? Is that?
Do you have any questions of the owner?
Well, that's what, I was just going to open it up now
Oh,
to
sorry.
the commission.
Okay, may I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the cornice, with the brackets, the modillions,
Well-
consoles?
You know what, I'll start and then let him fill in. I love the cornice. I am a big fan of restoring things, whatever I can, and if I can add something to it, I will. The cornices will remain. Anything that is too far deteriorated, I will replicate as best I can. I love them, I'm gonna paint them, and accent them. So as far as I'm concerned, they will all remain and all be accented and all restored.
So right now, you said they were aluminum clad, is that right?
Yes.
So the original wood consoles are underneath the aluminum?
We have not torn the aluminum off. If I can tear it off, and the building is extremely rotted. There is tremendous amount of rot. I cannot believe how rotted, how deteriorated it is. When I open that up, if what's there is salvageable, I will salvage it. I will paint it in a nice oil base and fill it in as best I can. If I open up and it's not salvageable, I'll put the aluminum back on because it looks nice. From the ground, you can't really tell. I prefer wood, but if I can't save it, I'll put the aluminum back up and I'll paint it as though it's wood.
Okay. I guess that's it for me for questions at the moment.
Do you have any questions?
I don't have questions.
Mr. Rooney, any questions?
the only question I have, your first layout for the east elevation with the 4 windows, but you mentioned that since the interior is completely gutted and you had the window openings there, Is that what was there, or, no, it was,
You can see in the photo what's there. It's just 3 windows on that street side.
Which photo?
yeah, the existing conditions, street over.
This photo.
This one.
Right.
That's what the street looks like now. We're proposing the 4 windows.
Yeah, I was just saying, you had pulled off the interior and you saw the framing of the windows.
Yeah, I think Mr. Rooney's asking if there were any historic openings that were covered by the vinyl siding and new.
Right.
There's not any historic openings that can be identified. It has been pieced and re-pieced more than once, and it's a mess. I tried to figure out what the initial layout was, and I have difficulty because there is literally so many different headers and ledgers that I couldn't figure out what was initially there. But you know what, I want an attractive building, obviously.
Sure.
And I want it to look older. That's why I went with the long, narrow windows. We couldn't really put windows along that back wall because it's so close to the other building.
Right.
It's fire prohibitive. So I wanted to have as many windows to let some light into the building and make it look attractive and make the interior and the exterior attractive. That's why we went for the 4 windows. But John came up with that suggestion of clustering the 2 to make it the 3 windows, which
Sure.
fits in with the Italian 8.
Any other questions?
No.
I have a question. It appears that the windows across the front, what you can say is the front, which faces the north, are they the same size as the windows that face the proposed parking lot? Or are the windows in the front longer?
They're longer.
They're longer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
I felt that he initially drew them the same as the rest, and I felt it was more attractive. It's more expensive, but I felt it's more attractive to go with the longer, narrow window to fit with that style. It's
No, I agree. I just didn't know, it wasn't clear on the drawings.
I want to, I want it to have curb appeal. I want it to be a
Right.
beautiful building. It would, in my opinion, it'll be the best looking building in the area.
Right. And then the railing that's on top, is this a railing that's on top of the, because it looks as though you have a door here, so that'll be like a second floor porch?
The door's existing, but there's no
Right.
railing right now. We are proposing this railing.
And that railing, what material do you propose that to be? Is
Like a
that
wood
on-
railing, like wood,
That'll be wood?
Yeah.
So you're, okay.
yeah, painted, yeah.
And are the, and any, so what you're saying is that the detail, like the railing and the columns and the railing that's down here, these will be wooden elements?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sure.
I don't see.
Oh, no, I was just wondering what you're proposing to be wood. This and this,
All wood.
all wood.
All wood.
And then just as from an architectural or a building standpoint, can you frame out a window with wood, even if it's vinyl siding?
Yes,
You can?
yes,
Okay,
and I intend to.
okay. So you're going to keep the original existing vinyl, or you're going to replace the vinyl?
No, that vinyl, I'll go back. to my
Sure.
seat. The vinyl that's there is horrible.
Right,
I am not a fan of vinyl at all.
right.
What I intend to do is go with a very high-end vinyl, but on the corners, rather than use that boxy crap, I'm going to use AZAC, which is identical to wood. You couldn't tell the difference.
Right.
And I'll butt right up against it, and I'll go with full lengths, so that truthfully, if you were standing on the curb and I said, tell me whether this is wood or vinyl, you would not be able to tell. I am not a fan of vinyl.
Thank you. Any other discussion about the vinyl issue?
No.
Discussion or,
Discussion.
okay. I mean, I think that think that, being that this is an historic district, and yes, you made the point that all the other buildings in the neighborhood are vinyl.
With the exception of the railroad that cuts right through the center of it.
Right. I know it's not probably what you want to hear. I think that it would be preferable to have a paintable wood or hardy board type, material. If this is a historic district and we're looking to preserve and to set an example for the improvement of the district, I think it has to start someplace.
Right, and that's actually what is in our design guidelines, too. Okay.
I want to also add, just as in terms of comment, I think I would like to see, this is a suggestion, the lintel underneath the windows there's no real massing to it. It's the same as I think it would be nicer if you had a little more mass, a thicker lintel under the bottom of the window.
I call for 2 1/4 inches.
I just think it would be nicer if it was weighed a little more bottom heavy from the top. Maybe it's your drawing, but
You need this detail down here?
yeah, I'm looking at it. It just seems to me that it would be nice. It'd be nice to see that a little thicker and a projection.
That's fine, yeah.
The other comment I would make is on the pilasters, and again, AZAC is a good material. I would personally like to see a wider pilaster, maybe like a coffered pilaster, like a
Fluted, you mean?
no, not fluted, a recess in the center, molded, framed.
Like a panelized one,
A
yeah.
panelized,
Yeah.
I think that would be much handsomer, and I have to tell you that this elevation is very, very attractive. It reminds me a lot of historic Charleston, okay? It's very, assuming this is what we're going to get, I just think that these little details will really enhance the building. So a thicker lintel, natural either wood or another material, and a paneled pilaster, I think would really hit it out of the park.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
Sure.
I have no problem with the two. The only problem is with the building, I was required to retain X amount. The building is wavy all over the place. It literally was held up by the sheathing, not by the structure itself. If I were to put on another material, it would not be attractive.
Could you you mean siding?
Yes.
Okay.
If I sided, all the other things, I'm in agreement with you, and I have no problem with it. But using another material on that will not work. I've been doing this a long time, and I've restored many a building, and I like restoring buildings. If there was something there workable, I would work it. That is not, it's just not an option. If I were to go with, one of the concrete boards, you'd see all the waves up and down, and I'm sure, I didn't discuss this with him, but I'm sure he would understand. Like I said, I'm gonna mask it 100%. When you stand there, you will not know that it's siding.
Can I ask you a question? Your argument for not doing wood, as I understand it, is based on the fact that the actual face of the wall is not plumb, it's not flush in such a way that the wood it would be. So my question is, can't you shim, to even it out? Just like,
If it was one or two areas, yes, but it's not one or two areas. It's the entire building. The entire building is falling down. It's imploding. In fact, I bought it from Mr. Cooney, who his wife was on this board, I believe, and she looked at everything with me, and I said, I'm going to save this. I explained to her what I was going to do, and she was very appreciative. And she knows the inside, the building was scheduled to be torn down. They said it was slated to be torn down and it was to be demolished. And I said, no, we'll save it. And that's exactly what I'm doing. But I'm saving it in a way that it's going to look beautiful. You saw the pictures. I hired a very good architect. I'm sure you've seen some of his other buildings. I'm restoring it to the best that it possibly can be, and it will be the best looking house in the neighborhood without question. I mean, I'm surrounded by vinyl siding that I'm not a fan of, including the other house that's on my property.
Well, just out of curiosity, maybe this is outside the scope, but are you residing in this property, or is this a rental property?
It may be a rental, but I may end up residing in it also. It's a two-family.
Okay.
So the answer is both.
Okay, thank you. I just want two other questions that I realized weren't addressed. The foundation here, what is that, the proposed foundation? It's concrete now?
Yes.
Or you're not, what is the finish going to be on that?
Wait, you mean outside?
Yes.
It's
Yeah, we can only- we
it's
can-
stone. Is it? It's stone, right?
It's actually, what's currently there.
It's only a little bit visible, by the way.
It's this much of it is visible in the front.
Right.
Actually, this much, somewhere about 6 inches is visible from the front. From the back, probably about 4 inches on one side and 2 inches. If not, over the years, I believe that the next door neighbor has dumped stuff there, dirt and product, and it actually is too high, and it's going up against the building, and I'm gonna scrape it down to expose a little bit of it.
You're talking about the planter boxes, I think, right?
Well, it says stucco planters, that's why I'm wondering what,
Oh, yeah, those are new, yes.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought you meant the existing
oh, no,
building. I'm
now I
sorry.
realize, but no, I wondered if it was, if you were putting, what the facing would be on that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's going to remain concrete, and then you're going to put planters in front of it. Okay, and then
Is it going to be, hold on, he didn't clarify, what are the planters going to
The
be faced
planter,
with?
yeah, they're like stucco planter boxes. They're just like low, with caps on them and dirt inside and plants growing.
But they're going to be stucco.
Smooth, yes.
But trowel applied stucco.
Yes. You
Not
mean
ev-
like not drive it, like?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
but these are planters that you bring in, they're not part of the,
They're fixed.
They're architectural, like masonry boxes. They're actual, masonry boxes with masonry caps and filled
Okay.
with soil, with weep holes and everything, yeah.
okay, and that'll be adjacent to the siding that's on the front of the house?
No, it just touches that little existing porch.
Okay.
If you look at this element, sorry. Yeah, it's
Right.
on the plan, right.
Okay, all right.
There are two of them, right, there are actually two of them.
And then what is the roof? What do you propose to do for the roof?
It
Is
would
that,
just be like a single-ply membrane roof. Nobody sees the roof, it's virtually flat.
no, the roof of the porch that you do see.
That was going to be an asphalt shingle roof.
Okay.
I would go with like the textured, nice roof.
Okay. Any other questions, or? No. Okay, so we have our recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to follow along. The two, I guess, we have the recommendation for the thicker lintel below the window and the thicker pilaster, and then
Paneled pilaster.
paneled pilaster. And then I did the final finishes for the materials, lighting, roofing elements all should return to the HPC for final selection.
Can you give Graham the explanations for the thicker lentil and panel? That
Thicker
way-
sill.
Yeah, that way the zoning
sill.
has some context.
So that the sill should have a more volume, I don't know what you said, what's the width?
Beefier,
It's a
Beefier.
beefier
a
sill.
beefier solid, which I'm in agreement with.
Okay. So, should we say what is the width right now? Do you
Right
know?
now, it scales to two, I have it at 2 1/4, I could make it 3 1/2,
Yeah, maybe even 4.
Yeah. Okay.
So, between a 3 1/2 and a 4-inch.
3 1/2 and 4 inch.
Sill.
And I would just like to add that the cornice is to remain
Mhm.
and what's not salvageable will be replicated.
Yeah, I have an issue too, with the column holding up the
The porch
portico.
room?
I mean, there's nothing worse to me than a column where the proportion of the diameter to its total height is
Too small.
too
narrow.
skinny.
Too skinny.
I think
yeah.
that, I mean, I'm assuming, I mean, I'm envisioning from this drawing, and it's hard to gauge,
It's 8 inches.
all right, it's like a Tuscan,
No,
Column.
it's a square column with a
Oh,
chamfered corner.
oh, it's a square column.
Yeah.
Okay.
With a chamfered corner, you know, the corners are beveled.
Is there, what is, just out of curiosity, is there any kind of fencing, like on that elevated, between the column and the face of the house? Is that just open to the planter?
There's a railing going up to the entry to the
Planter's higher.
second.
Planter's higher. But does the plant, and the planter runs the full width between the column and the face of the house?
Right.
Okay.
The column lands on the inside of the planter, like, not inside the planter, I'm sorry, like behind the planter.
And is there is there a pilaster, fascia pilaster on the face of the house that kind of mirrors that at all?
In 2 locations, yeah. If you look at.
That was one of Mr. Conley's comments,
Right.
And that was addressed in the revised plan
and that
by
was
Mr.
redre-
Gordon.
It's on the-
addressed.
Okay, I just think that there needs to be
No,
the reflection.
Number 5.
Okay.
I also think, could you read back, please, Graham, about the siding, what we,
I had not done one on the siding yet. That was kind of my pending question.
okay, so the pending question is, I think, well, what does the rest of the commission feel, that being that this is a historic, historic district, that the siding should preferably be,
Preferably should be
But the problem is that,
an
you know,
natural product.
it's,
right,
well, I mean, the unfortunate thing is, you know, we certainly are sensitive to the hardship and the economic potential issues.
but
But
it almost sounds as though it's more of a, whether it can actually be done. That's,
It really
It's-
can't.
yeah, it's
If I do it, we'll all be sorry. I mean, there's a lot of buildings in the area that were sided, and I don't intend to do anything on that low of a scale.
mhm.
What I intend to do, I mean, it's my house, I'm gonna own it. I don't wanna own something that doesn't look attractive. It is such a mess. I mean, it's a mess. There's nothing that, if there was something I could restore, I've done plenty of restoration.
But I think for us, that being the Historic Preservation Commission and knowing that it's an historic district, that there has to be some reason why we're agreeing with you, which would be the feasibility.
It's hard,
really.
it's hard, it's very easy, and I'm not presuming that you're coming in with a specific story to make it seem like the hardship is it's so untenable that we have to acquiesce. I mean, it's hard for us without physically being on site to confirm or deny your position. I'd like to believe, and I'm confident, I'd like to believe you're telling us the complete truth. I can't imagine,
Sworn testimony.
I understand, but the question is,
Could I clarify something?
I've been to court cases where, trust me, no one was telling the truth. so
All right.
go ahead.
There is not one house in the neighborhood that is wood-sided.
But yours might be the first.
If mine could be the first,
I know
I
you're gonna hate
would.
me for this, but what if you put a sheathing of plywood on it, shimmed, so that you can now make it level, and then you now have a surface area that eliminates the waviness? It just seems to me, I know it's an economic issue.
Did you look at the pictures that are current?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, it is a mess.
I mean, you can't see what's underneath, so.
I intend to tear it off, and then you'll be able to get a full view. What's underneath is nothing but difficult. That's the best way for me to describe it.
I feel strongly that we should specify a wood material. However, I have to defer to my colleagues, and I don't know how to, this is a tough one, only from the
Well,
point
we
of view.
could say it's preferable,
Yeah.
not nothing else.
But that doesn't really effectuate any guaranteed outcome. I mean, if the premise is,
I think that possibly the best avenue here is to just be transparent in the comment over to the board and say, the applicant testified that there are conditions exist on the building that do not support installation of wood siding. However, it is preferable
Right.
that wood siding be used. So you acknowledge the limitations that
Right.
the applicant has explained, but you explain that your preference is for the use of wood siding, and let them
And then
decide
say
what to do.
everything else that's being applied will be wood or, that could be AZAC.
and by the way,
Correct.
the clapboard material, the,
And just to further follow up, the final finishes returned for review of all final finished materials will include whatever the siding material is. So the revisions committee will have the benefit to select the most appropriate, should it be vinyl siding that will replicate and match
Okay.
the appearance.
Okay, that's great.
I'm reading Mr. Connolly's remarks, and one of the things says, vinyl siding is not preferred. If feasible, remove existing vinyl siding. So there's some wiggle room there in the phrase,
Right.
if feasible,
Well-
you know.
Yeah, I think we should
You know.
keep that. And
So
what's...
that's my recommended approach.
Can you read that back to us?
So I just
please?
made it up out of my head, Bill.
Oh.
I didn't write it down yet. So the applicant testified to the commission that the use of wood siding was not feasible on the subject building. However, it is the commission's preference that wood siding be used, as that is consistent with the design guidelines.
Right.
Yeah.
That way you're giving the benefit to the commission that they have both sides. They understand what the applicant's testimony was, but they understand the HPC's position that wood siding is preferable to
but
be
we're
used.
not making it.
You're not making the
we're
final
establishing
decision,
it's pre-
you're providing the recommendation.
It's
Right.
strongly preferred.
Well,
It's just preferred.
Just
it's just
preferred.
preferred, that's
So
what
do you have another clause, another recommendation about the additional materials?
So then, and we'll do another one that's,
Which is the
all
railings
all
that-
accent material, all other materials shall be of a wood finish.
Okay.
And then all final finishes come back.
All right. So we have how many?
That's 5 total.
I know
Okay.
the wood frame, the wood sills, we agreed, everything is wood, the wood frames.
Yes, that's
Okay.
what we just
wood or
discussing.
AZAC.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. And when is this due?
This is actually going to the Development Review Committee on November 7th, I believe. Is that the date?
It's the first one.
This is a minor site plan with no variance relief required, so the planning board has referred it over to the Development
That's
Review
what
Committee.
was going to be my question.
Yes,
Okay.
there's no variances in this application.
Okay.
You'll see me again.
So yes, Mr. Rooney will be back again on this one.
Okay,
He can
great.
explain the
I gotta explain.
the positioning.
I think
of this.
I think it looks very attractive. You know, I think the massing of the windows is great. I've driven by a couple of times. I can see it looks like it's just a void in the interior. I wonder what was keeping it together, actually.
So do we.
Sometimes it's paint.
Yeah. I do have a question, and it goes to practicality and timing. Mr. Hildebrand, right now, he's been given permission to, like, make the building safe,
Yeah.
you know, essentially, so there's no further, collapsing or deterioration.
Right.
However, he would like to be able to go for building permits that would allow him to finish the inside. We can't do the parking lot yet until we get site plan approval, we understand that. The only holdup here is that the window openings were pending your approval. Is there a way so that he can keep working, at least say, the window holes are okay? Even if you haven't agreed on the materials yet, can we get that so that
You look to council.
Yeah, I don't understand how that's holding up your
Well,
permit.
yeah, have you submitted, you haven't submitted construction permits on this portion of it yet, have you?
Right, but we can't say we're going to make the windows this many, this big, unless,
Yeah, so, I mean,
You
timing-wise, you can go ahead and submit your permits. You're not going to obtain the permits by the time the Development Review Committee meeting happens.
I understand.
So
Okay.
go ahead and file for your permits now. You're not going to get them until after November 7th, though. Just letting you know.
Okay.
So
But
so
the
you can
thing is-
submit them consistent with the
Right.
plan that was presented here, and then should the DRC render any modifications to this approval, then you can revise and then resubmit and update your permit application. But yes, you can file for construction permits. They're not going to be issued before the approval is rendered at the DRC.
okay, all right.
It's just a logistical government
Yeah.
timing process. Okay. All right.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Thank
You know,
you.
It's
Thank you.
great improvements in the neighborhood, really.
It'll be a fun project. Thank you, guys.
Really?
Okay, bye.
4:30.
Okay, our last
So the last item is just the certificate.
item.
It's the approval of resolution denial.
Why don't you handle that?
Sure. The next item on the agenda is approval of resolutions. We have the resolution for C of A, application 2019-16, 597 Valley Road, New York Community Bank. A copy of the resolution was provided in the packet. Has everybody had an opportunity to review it? This was a C of A denying the application.
Right.
That's the one where they put the windows in. They had to come before the board when they got a violation notice, and we told them the windows they installed weren't consistent, and go back put the original ones in. So, does anyone have any comments on it?
No.
No.
Someone make a motion to
Motion to
the
approve.
resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, then I think we're ready to adjourn. Our next meeting will be November...
Thursday, October 24th.
October 20
2 weeks from this evening.
Yes, 2 weeks from
Our
this
regular
evening.
October meeting.
Make sure everybody might set on the calendar. You won't be here?
No, that's next month.
Oh, you won't be here in November.
I may have to work that night, but I'll let you know.
Wait, October
Okay.
24th?
Correct. That's our regularly scheduled October.
2
meeting.
weeks.
Oh, okay.
2 weeks from tonight.
There's a good chance I might not be here.
Okay, well, thank you. Hopefully, we'll have a quorum.
Yeah.
Okay. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
These are actually nice little projects.